does a good life actually look like for a rat? Not just surviving, but genuinely having positive experiences. Because that's the thing, good animal care isn't just about preventing suffering anymore. Modern animal welfare science is moving towards aiming for more positive experiences. And today we're going to talk about one of the most important frameworks in animal welfare science, the 5 domains model, and what it tells us about how our rats are really living. Welcome back to the podcast. This is where we look at pet rats through science, behaviour and welfare. And today's topic is something that underpins a lot of modern welfare thinking, the 5 domains model. It was originally developed by Meller and Reed in 1994 and has been updated several times since to reflect developments in animal welfare science. Used across veterinary science, animal research, zoos and conservation, and increasingly in companion animal care as well. The version I'm talking about today is the 2020 version, as detailed in the paper which I will link below. The key idea is that animal welfare isn't just about avoiding negative states like pain or hunger, it's also about promoting positive experiences. So instead of asking, is this animal suffering, we ask, what is this animal experiencing overall? And that's a much higher bar. Before I get into the 5 domains model, I just want to touch briefly on the 5 freedoms and 5 provisions. I couldn't find the actual paper that first introduced them, but I'll also link to another one of Meller's papers that references them. So the first freedom is the freedom from thirst, hunger and malnutrition, and the provision for this is to provide ready access to fresh water and a diet that maintains health. The second freedom is the freedom from discomfort and exposure, and the provision for this is an appropriate environment which includes shelter and a comfortable place to rest. The third freedom is the freedom from pain, injury and disease, and the prevention for this is either through the prevention of pain, injury and disease or through rapid diagnosis and treatment. The fourth freedom is the freedom from fear and distress, and the provision for this is to provide conditions that avoid mental suffering. And finally, the fifth freedom is the freedom to express normal behaviour, and the provision for this is to provide sufficient space, proper facilities and same species company. I'm not going to get into these any more than I already have, as that's not what this episode is about, but I just wanted to highlight them quickly. In many ways, they're quite similar to the 5 domains model. The 5 domains model breaks welfare down into 5 domains. And these are nutrition, physical environment, health, behaviour and mental state. The first 4 are physical or functional areas, and they all feed into the 5th, which is the animal's overall subjective experience. So let's go through each one. Domain 1 is nutrition. At a basic level, this is about access to adequate food, clean and accessible water, and a proper nutrient balance. But the 5 domain model goes further. It asks whether feeding is a positive experience. So things like nutritional inadequacies and the negative effects that these can have. For example, restricted water intake can lead to thirst. Restricted food intake can lead to hunger, both of which can negatively impact the individual in question. The same thing goes for the quality of the food. Poor food quality can lead to malnutrition, and a lack of variety in the food can lead to eating-related boredom. This domain also looks at positive nutritional conditions. So this is nutritional opportunities and the positive effects that these can have. For example, drinking the correct quantities of water can quench thirst, and eating enough food can cause satiety, both of which are overall positives. Eating a balanced diet can improve health, and eating a variety of foods can cause individual pleasure as they get to experience a range of different tastes, smells, textures, keeping all of this interesting for them. Domain 2 is the physical environment. This includes things like light, temperature, and pollutants. Again, it looks at the negatives and the positives of these physical environment conditions. So things like how overcrowding can lead to feelings of stiffness or muscle tension, how unsuitable or soiled substrate can lead to skin irritation, how air pollutants can cause respiratory issues, as well as the physical effects caused by extremes of temperature. It also includes things like auditory issues, for example ear pain due to loud noise, visual issues, for example eye strain due to inappropriate lighting, and physical limits that impact on an individual's ability to rest, which can cause exhaustion. Unpredictable events are also included in this domain and can lead to fear and hypervigilance. All of these negative physical environment conditions can lead to negative effects or forms of discomfort. On the flip side, positive physical environment conditions can lead to positive effects or forms of comfort. For example, having ample space for movement can lead to physical comfort, as can suitable substrate. Having fresh air or ventilation can lead to respiratory comfort. Having suitable shelter available can lead to thermal comfort. Effective noise control and light intensity controls can lead to auditory and visual comfort. Having suitable conditions for rest can lead to the individual being well rested. And having a predictable environment, for example through an established routine, can lead to the individual being calmer. Domain 3 is health. This includes things like diseases, injuries, and pain. Negative health conditions can include injuries, leading to pain, extreme body condition scores, so things like obesity, which leads to the negative effects of being too fat, or leanness, which leads to negative effects of being too thin, and poor physical fitness, leading to physical weakness. It also includes functional impairments like limb amputations. Positive health conditions include having no injury, disease, extreme body condition scores, or functional impairments, which leads to comfort of good health and functional capacity. Domain 4 is behaviour. This domain looks at interactions with the environment, interactions with other animals, and interactions with humans. Again, it takes both the positives and the negatives into account. Interactions with the environment take into account whether or not the individual has agency or control. So if they don't have any agency to make their own decisions, this might look like being housed in a confined space or not having any variety in what enrichment they have, and this can lead to boredom, helplessness, withdrawal, or depression. On the other hand, being given a sense of agency, for example by being provided with a novel environment, can lead to the individual feeling calm and in control and being pleasantly occupied. This could look like having the space and novel things to explore, as well as opportunities to forage. Interactions with animals is split into animal-to-animal interactions that would be helpful to the individual from a social point of view, and the presence of other animals that would be negative for the individual. So animal-to-animal social interactions are more likely in social animal species and may not apply to every species. An example of negative interactions could be where the individual is unable to interact with other individuals of its own species, and this can lead to loneliness and depression. Examples of positive interactions are playing and bonding. These can lead to positive social behaviours and then positive affective states. For example, more affectionate sociability and play. An example of where the presence of other animals might be negative is if you keep prey species as a pet and also have a predator species that has access to the same room the prey species was kept in. In this scenario, the presence of other species could be negative, leading to fear and anxiety, whereas the absence of the other species could be positive, leading to more overall affective states. The final behavioural category is interacting with humans. Negative interactions might include the individual animal being uncertain or fearful of humans, leading to escape behaviours, fear, or avoidance. Or negative handling is another example, where someone is rough with the animal, which could lead to fear and anxiety, or even pain. On the more positive side, confident and sensitive interactions from people could lead to the individual being calmer or even bonding with the humans. And similarly, gentle handling can lead to the individual being calm and feeling in control. Finally, we get to Domain 5, mental state. This is the outcome of everything else. It includes negative experiences like fear, pain, and frustration, and positive experiences like comfort, curiosity, pleasure, and social bonding. So basically, the first 4 domains lead into the 5th one, and the overall well-being of the individual is the sum of all of them. So what does this look like if we apply it to pet rat welfare? Good welfare in Domain 1, nutrition, might look like rats being provided with appropriate quantities of food that is nutritionally good for them. Ideally, there should also be some level of variety with this too. For good welfare in Domain 2, the physical environment, this could be through having an appropriately sized cage, areas to climb and explore, shelters to hide in, and bedding material to build nests with. Good welfare in Domain 3, which is health, might look like preventative healthcare, for example, regular vet visits to detect any health issues early, leading to a higher chance of being able to treat any issues that might come up. Good welfare in Domain 4, which is behaviour, could be housing rats in pairs or groups so that they have company. It could also look like providing puzzles and foraging opportunities to keep the rats engaged. And all of these would hopefully lead into a more positive mental state for the rats. So here's the slightly uncomfortable part. If you apply the 5 domains model honestly, a lot of standard pet care starts to look a bit questionable. Not necessarily harmful, but maybe not optimal. For example, a rat kept alone might have adequate nutrition and health, but poor behavioural and mental welfare. A small cage might meet minimum guidelines, but limit exploration and choice. And a lack of enrichment might not cause immediate suffering, but reduces positive experiences. And this model pushes us to think beyond, is this okay? To, is this a good life? One of the biggest issues I think at the moment with applying this to rat welfare is that there's not that much scientific evidence of what good pet rat welfare might look like. Sure, there's plenty of welfare-based lab rat studies, but most owners don't keep their rats in the way that they're kept in labs. And there are a lot of opinions about what constitutes good pet rat welfare, but not much evidence to back it up. Not yet, anyway. So what does good welfare look like for a rat across all 5 domains? It might look like a varied, engaging diet, a large, complex, changing environment, preventative and responsive healthcare, social companionship and interaction, and opportunities to explore, play, and make choices. And importantly, it includes positive experiences. Things like curiosity, comfort, social bonding, and play. Because a good life isn't just about the absence of bad, it's about the presence of good. The 5 domains model gives us a really powerful way to rethink how we care for animals. Not just, are they okay, but are they having a life worth living? So if you take one thing from this episode, let it be this: don't just aim to meet your rat's needs, aim to give them positive experiences too, because that's what good welfare really is. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want more science-based discussions like this, especially as I start bringing in more elements of my PhD work, there's a lot more coming. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye.